Hey, I'm Ted Vieira, and I've been shooting with the X-Pro2 now for a little over a month. So last weekend I just did a short video and talked about some of my favorite features about the camera so far. Uh, and man, I can't believe I forgot I left out one of my most favorite features, and that's where Fuji went a little bit retro again, and they've added an ISO dial in combination with the shutter speed dial on top of the camera. Man, I love the dedicated ISO dial on the XT1. I love this, and it's one of my favorite things about this camera. But obviously, Fuji couldn't do that with the X Pro 2. They couldn't put an dedicated dial over here because that's where your viewfinder is, right? Yeah. And while I do love that feature on the XT1, I love that. I'm really finding that I prefer having the ISO dial on the right side of the camera because I can be looking through the viewfinder and changing my ISO and seeing the exposure change in the viewfinder at the same time, and I love that. If you're not familiar with this setup, essentially you've got your shutter speed dial. You can change that, adjust your shutter speed, but now when you lift the outer ring, now you can change ISO. I'm a big fan of this feature. I'm really glad Fuji found a way to add an ISO dial in the outside of the camera. But I have heard from different shooters or other people in the Fuji community that don't think that's such a great feature. They're not a fan of it. One of the issues that I've heard is that they think the ISO numbers in the window is too small. Now I've got really bad eyesight, and for me it's not an issue. I can see where this would be subjective, but for me with my eyesight, not an issue. They're fine. The ISO numbers, the window, it's fine. I'll look at like an old camera like this Pentax, the Spotmatic. Exact same setup. They've got the shutter speed dial with the ASA added to where you lift to adjust the ASA. Now see if you can see this. I'm going to hold it up. Can you see that? Look how small those numbers are. I don't know if you can really tell. They're very small. Fuji's are much larger, much better. So again, for me, it might be subjective, but for me, it's not an issue. Another issue that I did hear about was photographers are a little worried that, well, man, you're going to get some junk in there. You're going to get some dirt in there. It's going to mess up your ISO dial, your shutter speed dial. But again, referencing back to the Pentax, this camera is no spring chicken. It's been around a while, and this combination still works fine. So that doesn't seem to really be an issue either. Anyway, do you have an X-Pro2, and what do you think about this? Or what are you guys' thoughts on the ISO shutter speed dial? I love it. I'm really glad Fuji did it. But let me know what you think. I'm Ted Vieira. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll answer anything I can. And I will see you in the next video. Thanks.